Hello, it's Cisvolk. Time to enjoy card making with me. Today I will be working with this beautiful die from Alinacraft. It contains dies that cut, but also two dies that only cut stripes in the paper, and it gives a beautiful effect in my opinion. I also used the Colorful Days alcohol patterned paper and a very large Fish Creatures clear stamp. For embellishments I use these beautiful water drops, and for embossing I use transparent embossing powder. For the text I use a stamp with a matching banner die. Before I start by separating the dies. I think this is such a beautiful die, a drop shape but also usable as a leaf. When you buy the die, the separate parts are still together. Most parts you can loosen by bending. I use a pair of pliers to cut the parts that can't be loosened by bending. Be careful, because these pliers are very sharp and the metal splinters can jump off. I bought these pliers on AliExpress and I am very happy to have them. Let's start with the card. For the card base I take white smooth paper, which I cut at 13.5 cm. So 5¼ inch square. The Colorful Days pattern paper is my most favorite paper that the Alinacraft store sells. It's like alcohol paper. The paper is also very versatile. I save any scraps I have, they can always come in handy. Click on the link in the upper right corner or look below in the description of this video to get more inspiration with this paper. For my card I choose two shades that color nicely together and give the idea of an ocean. First I cut a card panel 2.5 cm square. I save the scraps for the envelope, or for the inside of the card, or for stamping. You can see that the panel leaves a nice ½ cm white border on all sides. I want to die cut the drop shape out of the patterned paper. I measure out where the center is, so the drop will be exactly in the center later. I use the two largest die cuts and run them through my die cutting machine. Look what a cool effect this die cut gives. You can see very small grooves where the larger one has made cuts. I'm going to use this die cut multiple times on the rest of the paper. And I'm also using the other die with the stripes. I will have to run the paper through the die cut machine several times. The challenge is to get both the die cut and the paper through the die cut machine so that it fits and still die cuts the paper in the right place. I chose not to have the dies overlap each other and also keep the distance between the prints about the same size. Here I have the other piece of paper. This will be the inside of the drop. I pick a spot on the paper that with a little imagination looks like an ocean floor. In addition, I now choose a sea creature that fits in nicely. Given the color, I choose the turtle. The inside of the drop I will cut out. I don't want to waste any of this paper. But I could have also just glued a straight piece of paper behind it. I used the rest of the paper to stamp the turtle on. With the turtle stuck on a clear block, I can easily find where I want to stamp it. To do this, I choose a suitable spot where the colors of the turtle will stand out nicely. This way you basically don't have to color the turtle if you don't like that. I stamp with Memento ink, a waterproof ink. It has a soft ink pad, which is why I stamp with the pad on the stamp. This way I avoid pushing too hard and getting too much ink between the grooves of the stamp, which will make the print less sharp. I make the paper anti-static with my pantyhose with talcum powder in it, so I can heat emboss the stamp print very sharp and give it some depth. There are two very small spots where there is no ink. Too bad, but that's okay. After heat embossing I draw in the missing lines with a micron fine liner. almost nothing to see later. Normally, I would use my stamping platform to stamp my image twice, if the result was not quite to my liking. But in this case, I'm taking the chance of doing it all at once, because I find it easier this way to choose where I want the print to be. Alina's transparent embossing powder is very nice. It lasts very long. I love using it. The image looks nicer and it is also much easier to color inside the lines when it's heat embossed. I cut out the turtle very tightly next to the embossed line. Then I am going to give him some extra color and shadow. I color very lightly the parts where the shadow falls. This seems very difficult, but just try it. You will see that it is easier than you think and also much more fun than you think. I use 3 colors of green and color them over each other in layers. Just as long as the color green of the turtle matches the paper. If necessary, Google a picture of a turtle and see where the light and dark parts are. This way, I keep it on the paper from time to time to see if it colors well. A little pink on the cheeks makes it a little cuter. Using a blending tool, I blur the pencil lines so the color looks a little softer. Next, I color in the image with Nuvo Aqua Shimmer. This is a great water-based aqua brush that leaves a beautiful glittery sheen on the paper. I use it quite often on images that I have colored in. It gives a very nice effect. Just make sure you don't do this when you have stamped with water-based ink, then you will blur your image. Wait a minute for it to dry before the next layer. That's the white gel pen, perfect for creating highlights. Personally, I still find this the trickiest thing to do, but for everything goes, practice makes perfect. Think about which parts should stick out to catch some extra light. There you put a small line. On the cheeks, I like to put little dots. It makes it all a bit cuter. With double-sided tape, I stick the panel on the card. I also stick the drop in. I put the tape on the edges so that the drop that is inside will not lift up when it's put on the card. Of course, it can also be done with glue, but then you need a really good glue, like multimedium, with which you can glue invisibly without it bobbing. This is the best way to place a panel with double-sided tape on the back in the right spot. Only pull the strips away when the card panel is in the right place. I glue the turtle on with 3D foam blocks. These are also from Alinacraft. They stick really well. I've had foam blocks from cheap stores that didn't stick anymore after a year. Did I want to send a card after a long time? It just fell apart. Bummer. That won't happen to me anymore with these from 3M. The text stamps from Alinacraft store are so convenient. You stamp and die once and immediately have a whole supply on hand. The text I'm using this time comes from this stamp. When I want white text on black paper, I stamp with special ink for embossing and then use Alina's white embossing powder. It gives a very nice result. I wrote a T on the transparent jar and a W on the white one to keep them apart. The text strip I stick on raised. To make the white 3D foam a little less noticeable, I color the edges with a black permanent marker. Actually, I should have used my T-ruler to glue the text straight, but I think it turned out pretty straight without it. For the finishing touch, I have some beautiful water drops here. They are even more beautiful in real life than in film or photo. Really cool. If I look at it correctly, there are 4 different sizes. I stick the drops with glossy accents. but you can also use strong glue, of course. It is best to pick them up with tweezers. With a wax pen it's also possible. I have to buy a new wax pencil soon, because my old one dried out. Making drops with the glossy accents is a totally different thing than using these water drop gems. They shine better and are much thicker than you could make yourself. Also on the drip die, I draw a big line with a white gel pen to give it some dimension. For the envelope, I use the remaining piece of the die cut. I will stick this on the card, but first I die cut some drop patterns in here too. This stamp with sea animals is really huge. This is the biggest stamp sheet I have ever seen. At this point I can hardly decide which animal to use for the envelope. I'll just keep it simple and use the turtle again. After I finished this card, I made off camera several cards with this drop die and also with this cute sea animal stamp. I will show pictures of them at the end of the video. As you can see, I ran the die cut through the die cut machine several times on the drop die cut to get the stripes pattern in it. I want to adhere the drop to the front of the envelope and partially flip it over to the back, so I make a fold line in the paper to give it a sharp edge. I again use the double-sided tape to stick the paper. On the bottom piece I stick nothing. I will cut this off later. Handy that you can use the acetate film to lay on the paper to see how the stamp might look later. This time I'm stamping with the archival ink Tamias, available at Alinacraft store. It's very juicy, waterproof ink that stamps nice and sharp. I like to use it to create a sharp print on paper. For heat embossing I prefer to use Memento Lux, but it can certainly be done with this Tamias ink as well. The result of stamping is always a matter of the quality and combination of stamp, ink and paper. I purposely place the turtle with his back leg over the edge of the envelope. That way it's like he's coming swimming into the picture. For the colors, I chose the same colors as the turtle on the card. First I color the light parts and then I go darker and make shadows, also using a grey pencil. More and more layers of different colors over each other gives it a realistic, beautiful image. And then it doesn't matter if you use the wrong color. With another color over it, suddenly it becomes very beautiful. With a paper blender, or how you call it, a paper stamp, I smoothen it and again I use a shimmer water brush for the shimmer. And with a white gel pen I put some light accents. I am very happy with the result. Those water droplets are really beautiful. The drop die is very cool, and as I said, I have made more cards with these drops and with this big stamp set. I made more cards in other colors and cards where you don't have to color at all if you are not good at coloring or lack the patience for it. Can you believe I didn't like coloring in my stamps till 2 years ago? I will now show pictures of the other cards I made. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, Cisvolk, you might have seen them already. This card has become a happy shaker card. For this I used the basic dotted papers. I filled the shapes where I stamped the stripes with pieces of white die cut paper. I stamped the starfish on a yellow piece of marbled paper and didn't need to color it at all. I made it shiny with glossy accents. The card panel I adhered with a layer of double-sided foam tape. The white dewdrop I adhered with 2 layers of double-sided tape, and I also adhered with a layer of acetate film, so I could make a shaker card out of it. The dewdrop underneath I partially smeared with glimmer paste. The stamp set with the fish is an older stamp that Alina sells. It's made of silicone. The newer stamps that Alina sells are firmer and stick better. Nevertheless, you can make very nice prints with this stamp set, I think. For this card, I die cut the smallest drops out of marble patterned paper. I smeared them with glitter paste and glued them in a flower shape. I also used a stencil and the same glitter paste to make a shiny background on top of the card base, and also on another piece of dotted patterned paper. The striped borders at the sides of the dotted paper were made by masking and blending using black and brown oxide inks. For the next card I made a stencil by die cutting the smallest drop die shapes out of a piece of white paper. With the Nouveau glitter paste I smeared that on a white panel and on a piece of patterned paper. The patterned paper was a few millimeters larger than the card panel on all sides. I stamped the swordfish and the shrimp on a few scraps of patterned paper, gave them some extra color using coloring pencils, made shimmer with the glitter aqua brush, and some accents with the white gel pen. I also added some water gems. For the next 2 cards I used the alcohol paper again in pink and orange tones. Again I used the Nouveau glitter paste in the center of the image. This time I die cutted out the dies differently. Separate drops from white paper and patterned paper and then glued them together. The pieces I'd left over I adhered to the envelope. I drew the scales of the fish and the dots on the cheeks with white gel pen. See how the octopus suddenly looks even cuter because of those 2 little dots in the eyes? For this card I die cutted white borders that I adhered to the patterned paper. I hardly colored the fish and the seahorse, at most a little white pencil. This time I added the big dewdrop die combination and also glued the same combination on the envelope. For all the cards I made, I used banner text strips from different stamp sets with coordinating banner dies. Thank you for watching, liking my video and for leaving a comment in the description. My own YouTube channel is Cisvolk. Will you also become a subscriber to my channel if you watched via Alinacraft's channel? There are links of this cute stamp and die and all other products in the description below this video. I earn a small commission on them if you use them at no extra costs to you. Enjoy card making and I will see you next time. Bye bye!